All right. Well, I know it's been a couple of weeks, so thought it'd be helpful to just focus our attention on kind of pick up where we left off last week or last time we met a couple of weeks ago. And what we were working on at that time was the textual observations. And so it's reviewing some of the important aspects of the verbs, of English verbs, because as we've discussed in the past, those are critical for understanding. They drive the meaning of the paragraph or the stanza. And so it's important to understand as we're doing textual observations, the key is to look at those verbs. So with that, just by way of review, can anybody tell me what are the three characteristics of a verb, an English verb?
It has moods.
Okay, there's mood. Good. What else?
That's tense.
Tense. Good. And I heard it. Somebody said it. Voice. Yes. Good. Right. And we remember from that discussion, right? The tense. That's when the verb happens in time with reference to the speaker or the writer. And there are three tenses that we focus on in English: the past, present, and future. And again, in English, the action, the verbs are really focused on from the perspective of time. That's a key aspect within English. And then also too, in addition to tense, there is mood, which gives the speaker's attitude towards the subject. And in English, there are four primary moods. Some say a fifth, but I really see four primary moods. The indicative, again, remember that's a statement, a fact, a reality, or the imperative, which is a command. And then the interrogative is a question, and then the subjunctive, which is similar to the indicative, except there's a degree of uncertainty. It is a statement, but not necessarily a statement of fact or reality, because there is some doubt or some uncertainty related to the action. So that's called the subjunctive mood. And in English, you'll see that indicated by a word such as might or may, in addition to the verb. And then finally, there's voice. Voice tells the relationship of the subject to the verb. And again, in English, there are two voices: the active voice, that's the subject doing the action, and then the passive voice, that is the action being done to the subject. And then as we discussed in Greek, there's what's called a middle voice, and that is the action, the subject. It's similar to active in that the subject performs the action. But with the middle voice, the idea is also that he performs the action to itself or for its benefit. And so in English, that is often indicated by the word himself or itself or themselves. You'll see that there. The passive voice is often indicated by a verb of being plus the verb. Okay, and we'll do a couple more examples, and then we'll get to the next textual observation topic. All right, so let's do a few examples together. We did this last time, but I came up with a few more sentences where I'm going to call on you guys, and then just identify the verb, and then tell me what is the tense and the mood and the voice of that verb. Right, so we'll start with you, Brother Allen. If you can identify the verb here, and then identify the verb, and then the tense and the mood and the voice. Will you give me dinner? Give me dinner. That's
Will you give me dinner? The tense is future.
yeah. What's the verb?
Will. Give.
Give. Yeah, give. All right. And yeah, the tense. Now think about this is the form of a question, right?
The mood is interrogative.
Yeah, it's interrogative. Interrogative. All right. What's the voice?
The voice is active.
Good. It's active. Here the subject is you, give, right? So it's active. Now what about the tense?
The tense is future.
Okay, it looks like future.
But I think it's present.
It's present. Yeah, we need more information to know if it's future. Because if the sentence had been, will you give me dinner in 2 weeks? Okay, then we would know it's future. But, or if I had said, will you give me dinner now? We would know it's for sure present. So that's kind of a little bit tough because we don't have some other words around it. But I would say present with just this sentence as it stands. That it's a question asking something in the present. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, James. I'm going to ask you to do this next sentence here.
Okay, thank you. He was given dinner. Verb given.
Okay. And here we would include the helper verb, was, so was given. Okay, what's the tense, mood, and voice?
The voice is passive.
Did you say passive or active?
Yes, passive.
Yes, good. Because notice the action is being done to the subject. The subject is he, but the action is being done to the subject. He was given dinner. All right, good. How about the mood?
Future. Future tense.
Future? You say future?
Yes, it was given dinner.
Yeah, is this event going to happen or has it already happened?
That's already happened.
Yeah, so it'd be past tense, right?
Yeah.
And then what about the mood?
The mood. Not future, that's not right.
Remember, too, when I said to think about the mood, just ask yourself a few questions. First, ask, is it a question here?
No.
No, so it's not interrogative. Is it a command?
No.
So it's not imperative. And then, is there any doubt about the action?
It was active, I guess.
Yeah, there's no doubt here. It's not saying he was possibly given dinner. It says he was given dinner. So it's a statement of fact, and that's telling us that is indicative. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, good. Good. Sir Sid, I'll give you this one.
Give me dinner. Give me dinner. That's give the subject the verb. It's present. Then active and imperative.
Good. And I threw in an exclamation point there to really emphasize here that it is an imperative. It's a command. All right. This isn't an action that has taken place, so it's not indicative. It's not a statement of fact. it is an action that's being commanded or demanded. All right, so give me dinner. So that's present active imperative. Good. All right, Kazot, I'm going to give you the next one here.
He will give me dinner. Will give, verb. Going to happen.
Okay, what's the tense, mood, and voice?
Yes. He will give.
Let's start with the tense. Is this past, present, or future? Is this an action that happened already, is happening now, or will happen in the future?
Future.
Yes. We see that will give, so that tells us it's future. Okay, how about the voice? Is it active or passive? Is the subject doing the action?
Passive.
Okay, so is the subject, so is the action then being done to the subject? Does it say that he was given dinner or will be given dinner, or that he will give dinner? See the difference? Here's the difference.
Yes, yes.
He will be given dinner.
That's
Okay.
passive. Oh, active.
That's passive, but he will give dinner. That's active. Yes. So here, this is active.
Active.
Okay. You just have to ask yourself the subject, is he doing the action or is the action being done to him? Okay. How about the mood?
Indicative.
Yes. It's a statement of fact. He will give me dinner. All right, good. Let's see. Oh, we have one more here. Pastor Arn, I'm going to give you this next one here.
I might be given dinner. The main verb is given.
Okay. And here we would include, there are the helper verbs there, might be given. That's all part of the verbal idea.
The tense is present.
Present, yes, good.
And then the mood is subjunctive
Yes, what tells you that?
because of the word might.
Yes, exactly. We don't know. There's some doubt here, right? Uncertainty. Good.
Then the voice is and the voice is might be given dinner.
Okay, who's doing the action? Is the action being done by the subject or to the subject?
Active, Pastor?
Yes, the subject is going to do the action, right? Well, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I might be given dinner. If he's going to be given dinner, is the subject giving the dinner or is the dinner being given to the subject? Here's the difference. I might give dinner. I might be given dinner. See the difference?
Yes, Pastor.
Yeah, the first one is active because the subject, I is doing the action. But in the second one, I might be given dinner. That's passive
Passive.
because
Passive.
the action is being done to the subject.
Okay. Therefore, passive.
So in this case up here, this sentence is passive. Okay. Again, that
Okay.
verb of being there, be, tells us that the subject's not doing the action, it's being done to him.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Okay, I know everyone's a little rusty here, so that's why I wanted to do a few examples. So we'll do some more when we're actually look at the passage. We're going to look at Psalm 128 as an example here in a few minutes, Lord willing. All right, so that's the verb. So again, with verbs, you're looking for the tense, the mood, and the action. So the textual observation is to go through your passage after you've diagrammed it, and then just identify each verb and tell what is happening with each verb as far as these three characteristics. Okay. Pronouns. That's another important feature or important observation to make, because oftentimes in a passage, there are pronouns are found often in the text, and so you have to consider identify them, not just for the sake of identifying pronouns, but oftentimes what are those pronouns referred to? Again, remember a pronoun is used in place of a noun or refers to a noun. All right, and it's really important that we identify what noun that's referring to. Okay, and so in this step, what you want to do is identify the person, that is, it is a first person, second person, or third person noun, or you want to identify as well the number. So what I mean by that is this. So a first person pronoun is I, we, me, okay? They, them, I'm sorry, not they, them, I'm sorry. I, we, us, okay? That's a first person. A second person would be you, okay? A third person would be him, her, it, they, them, okay? And then, so that's the number, the person, and then the whether it's plural or singular is also important to consider, okay? So for example, let's see, I didn't do this right. Let's do it this way. So first person singular would be I or me, okay? So a first person plural would be we or us, okay? Now second person singular, and here's in English,
Us.
it's not, there's no way to distinguish in English whether it's second person singular or plural. Both are you. And so that's one of the challenges with English to consider. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then third person singular would be he, she, it, him, her. But a third person plural would be they or them. Okay. So you want to be able to identify these. This is very important, and it'll really be important when we look at prophetic text later on, and you're trying to identify when pronouns are used. But so the first thing to do is the person and the number of the pronoun. Is it singular or plural? Is it first, second, or third person? Okay. The next thing you want to consider when you're looking at the pronouns in a passage is, what does that pronoun refer to? What is it pointing to in the passage? And then after you've done that, it's helpful to see if you can identify any sort of pattern that you can see from those, okay? All right, so for example, let's just do this little example together. Michael, I'm gonna ask you just to look at your Philemon 10 to 13. And I want you to ask yourself, or tell us, I'm sorry, identify the pronouns. So we'll start in verse 10. Do you see any pronouns in verse 10 here?
I,
First
Ah.
person.
first pronoun.
Okay, what
I-
kind of pronoun is that?
First person.
First person,
Yeah, first person, is it singular or
singular.
singular? Yep. And who does it refer to here? This is Philemon. Paul's writing this letter.
Paul,
Yeah, it's Paul. Okay. And it refers to who is writing the letter. Okay. Okay, what do you see any others? In verse
You.
10.
you, Pastor.
Yes, you. Okay. And who does that refer to, you think? All right, sorry. First tell me, is it second person, first, second, or third person?
Second,
Okay, and is it singular or plural?
singular.
Maybe, right? What makes you
Yeah.
say singular?
Because of the succeeding words for my child, to you, for my child, Onesimus,
Okay.
to Philemon.
Yeah, this
Particularly
letter
to
is addressed to Philemon. So that's how we know it's specifically to him. All right.
Yeah.
So it's singular. But again, this is where it's a challenge in English because you wouldn't necessarily know. There are other parts in this letter where actually you is plural. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, any others in this verse 10? Any other pronouns?
Can we consider pronoun my as I, because my is possessive, something like that?
Yeah, it is yeah. You could say it's pronoun and it's singular as well, right? It's referring to Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Possessive. Yeah.
And my child there. Any others? I see
think
one more in
that's
verse 10.
Verse 10. Onesimus.
Whom?
Whom? Good.
Whom?
Yeah, whom. That's a relative pronoun. Okay. But it is a pronoun. All right. I just wanted to see if you guys were paying attention there. Whom. Okay. And that refers to, who does that refer to here?
Onesimus. Onesimus.
Yes, good. Onesimus. All right, very good. Okay, good. Pastor Noor, I'm gonna give you verse 11 here. Just identify the pronouns. Same thing we just did.
Who?
Yeah, good. Who?
Yeah, is the second. Oh
Yeah,
no,
it's a relative
third,
pronoun, so it's
yeah, relative pronoun.
and
the
who does
third
it
person.
refer to?
So Onesimus.
Good.
Onesimus.
Yes. All right, good. Any other pronouns in verse 11?
You.
Good.
You.
And that
Yeah.
refers to whom?
Philemon.
It's Philemon. I'm sorry. What is it first, second, or third person?
Second,
Singular or plural?
single.
Yes, you're right. Singular. And it refers
Yeah.
to, again, Philemon. All right. And then there's another you here.
Yes.
Okay. Any others?
Me. Last.
Yes, me.
Yeah.
And first, second, or third person?
That is first. First.
Yes. Single or plural? Singular or plural?
Me, that is singular.
Yes. And who does it refer to?
To Paul.
Paul. Good. Excellent. Any others in verse 11 here?
Was
I don't see any.
no.
Okay, great. All right, James, back to you. Verse 12. Any pronouns you see there?
I.
Yes,
The
good.
word
I.
First person.
Yep, first person.
Singular.
Singular.
Singular. Okay, good. And who does it refer to?
Paul.
Paul. Still refers to the speaker. Good. Any other pronouns here?
You.
Yes, you. All right.
You.
What is
Second person.
second person?
Refer to Philemon.
Yes, it refers to Philemon. And is it singular or plural then?
Singular. Singular.
Yes, singular. Okay. All right. Any other pronouns?
Mine.
Mine.
Him.
Okay. Yeah. And then, okay, so we have mine. Let's do that one first. That's also first person singular. And then, yes, we have another one here. Him. Who? What is that? First, second, or third person, James? Him. You're muted, brother.
Was it third person?
Yeah. Singular or plural?
Singular.
Very good. And who does that refer to?
Onesimus.
Yes, you're right. Onesimus. All right. Which is back in verse 10. Okay, good. So here, now this may seem like, okay, this just seems like busy work. Why are we looking up all these dumb pronouns? And who cares, all right? Well,
Pastor Tim, we still have one more.
oh, did I miss one?
Yes, one more.
In verse 12?
Yes, Pastor Tim.
Was it person?
The demonstrative pronoun.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Not.
Yeah. That it.
Yeah, I'm focusing more on just the personal pronouns. So the ones that are referring specifically, but yeah, technically speaking, our English scholar, Sir Sid, did identify, we got one more there, the, we'll put it in purple. That word, the word that can function a lot of different ways, but here it is functioning as a demonstrative pronoun. All right. Now, thanks, Sid. So you might be thinking, okay, this is just kind of some busy work, and why do I have to do this? Well, honestly, guys, just keep in mind, as we look at all the steps here in the process, okay? Some of these steps overlap. Some of these steps are interconnected. Sometimes you will be doing some things that might seem a little bit repetitive or like may not seem important, but I just want to remind you that as you go through these steps, each of them forces you to look at the passage from a different not point of view, but you're looking for something different. So it's making you think a little differently about the passage. In a way you may not have thought about before. Because when you're studying Philemon, for example, the example we just went through, and you're looking at that passage here, it's not obvious that who the you refers to. If you were to read the whole letter, if we were to go back, we would see, and let me just show you this. Here. All right, hopefully you can see. Can you, let me go back. Let's do Philemon. All right, can everybody see the letter Philemon here on your screen on the right?
Yeah.
Okay, now notice it says Paul, a prisoner of Christ, and Timothy to Philemon. Okay, well, letters to Philemon. Well, hold on a minute. To Philemon, our beloved brother and fellow worker, and to Aphia, our sister, and to Archippus, our fellow soldier, and to the church in your house.
Yeah.
So notice, yes, this letter is primarily written to Philemon, but there's some other people here. So it's not altogether obvious that the you in these verses, mention of you in my prayers, I hear of your love, of the faith which you have. And then when we get to our verses, I appeal to you for my child. It could be plural. All right. Because the letter is not just to Philemon, it's also to these other people. So how would you know? Okay, in many languages, as example in Greek it'd be obvious. There is a way to say use in singular and a way to say you plural that they look different. But in English, it's not. How would you know? Well, in this case, Paul makes a comment in verse 7 that gives us a clue. All right, Michael, you want to read that? Can you read verse 7 here?
Sure.
Unmute yourself.
Because
For I have to come much joy and comfort in your love, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you, brother.
Okay, there's a very big clue here in this verse that tells us, identifies the second person pronoun there, you. How do we know Paul is speaking to Philemon here? Only, Philemon only.
he mentioned brother.
Yes, you guys see that? Brother,
Mm.
okay? So that's a helpful clue that if he had said brethren, right, plural, then we would know it's the church, but he says brother here. Now, what's tricky is, so all through here, the second person pronoun you or your is to Philemon. But when we get down to verse 22, that word your there is actually plural.
Your prayer.
So like, how would we know that? Well, here.
Prayers with S, prayers.
Well, prayers, but still, that could be singular because, you know, you could pray many prayers, right, yourself. As so that's that possibility. But how do we know? Well, here's the thing. This is why I pointed out to you before the importance and the helpfulness of looking at the interlinear. Okay. So here, let me just pull up Bible Hub. This is a place you need to go to often. Bible Hub, we're going to go to Philemon. All right. So I hit Philemon, and then I'm going to hit Interlin because I want to look at the interlinear. All right. Whoops, I lost Philemon. All right, I'll have to read. So I hit interlinear, then I go to Philemon, and I click for the whole chapter. And let's go down to verse 22. I think it was 22. All right. And again, we're just going to take a look at, all right, we've seen this before, right? That middle line is the actual Greek text. The top line is the Strong's number for each word. The red font below the Greek text, that's just the literal definition for each word. And then at the bottom of each of these groups of rows, we have the grammatical identification. Okay, now we've seen this before when we looked at like verbs, but notice, okay, I want to go to that pronoun you. So I'm looking for you. Oh, here it is, of you. You guys see it there? Should I make this a little bigger? All right, a little bigger there. Okay, so here we have you. So what we're going to do is notice below it. Can you guys see that, or is it too small? It says personal. Notice it says at the end, second person plural. You guys see that? That tells us. Okay, second person, well, we got that. But here it is plural. All right. And then notice there's another pronoun to you. Let's look there. What does that say? Second person plural. All right. Now, look at verse 23. We have another. Epaphras greets you. Notice here's another pronoun, second person. Is that singular or plural? Is it Epaphras greets you, Philemon, or is it Epaphras greets you, the church at Philemon's house? Which is it? Well, let's look. Singular. Ah. So here, notice that he switched back in verse 23. Now he's speaking directly to Philemon. Okay. And then verse 25. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Notice here's another you. Is it singular or plural? Now it's plural again. Okay, so this letter is tricky. And when it comes to this pronoun you, you've got to pay attention, because in some parts of it, the you is not singular. He's not just speaking to Philemon in the whole letter. There are some parts where the you is plural. There's another one up near the beginning, if I remember correctly. Let's see. To the church at your house. Here's another you. And here he's speaking to Philemon. It's the church at Philemon's house. And then Paul says, grace to you and peace. Well, notice the you here is plural. So this is very important and significant, guys, because what we learn here, so let me just take you back to the English part here. All right. So by looking at the interlinear, we can tell is the you singular or plural. So here, the church in your house, that's singular, because he's speaking there to Philemon. But notice again, Philemon's not the only recipient. Aphia, which is probably his wife, Archippus, which is probably the pastor, and then the church. So the church is included as a recipient. So that's why sometimes, like in the next verse, grace to you, the you there is plural, because Paul's giving a greeting to the whole church. So this letter, even though much of it is directly to Philemon, it is intended also for the church. Okay, so the instruction that Paul gives, like here in verse 4, that you is singular, your love, singular, you, singular. All of the yous are singular all the way down until we get to verse 22. 21, having confidence in your obedience, that's singular. I write to you. Verse 21, that you there is singular. So Paul's saying, I'm writing this instruction to you, Philemon. But then he says, at the same time, prepare for me a lodging, so that I hope that through your prayers, that your is plural. And so is the you here. It's plural. So verse 22 is given for Paul speaking to the whole church. He's saying, okay, Philemon, I write to you because I know you'll do what I say. And then church, I hope that you will, I'll be delivered to you through your prayers. Church. And then back in verse 23, Philemon, Epaphras, my fellow prisoner, greets you. That you there is singular. And then Paul ends the letter with the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Your there is plural. All right. So, guys, this is important when you're interpreting this passage. You want to make sure you are identifying correctly who Paul is speaking to, or technically writing to in this case. Because in this letter, it's not always the same. All right, now in this case, you would have had to consult the interlinear to know for the second person pronouns if it's singular or plural. But knowing that then tells you exactly to whom Paul is speaking or referring to. Okay, so again, the point here is simply when you're looking at pronouns, it's just like the verbs. When you are specifically examining the verbs for certain characteristics, it's making you think about what the author is doing in the text, in your passage that you're studying. And it's forcing you to ask questions that you may not have asked just by a more general study. All right. And the same is true for the pronouns. If you go through it, you're not just listing pronouns, but you're actually having to think about it a little bit. Okay, who does this pronoun refer to? All right. And, you know, how often is this pronoun used? Those kinds of things. That can be helpful and give you insight into the passage. And like I said, in some cases like Philemon, don't assume that you know whether the you is singular or plural. You really have to examine it closely. Okay. Any questions on that? Yeah, Alan?
Pastor Tim, are you saying that the context is not always accurate in identifying whether the pronoun is singular or plural, or first person, or yes, second person?
Yeah, sometimes it'll be clear from the context. For example, when we were looking at here, let's see, verse, was it 7? And Noor pointed out he saw that word brother. So the context there made it very clear that, you know, speaking to Philemon. But the problem is, this is a problem in English with the second person pronoun. In English, there's just no distinction between singular and plural. And so sometimes, yeah, you can tell from the context, but like I said, in this case, like if you go down to verse 23 or 2, you would not have known that he's speaking to the whole church unless you have looked up that pronoun your and saw that it was plural. Because so far, the whole way, it's been singular. And then verse 22, there wouldn't have been anything obvious here, I don't think, in the context to say, oh, now he's speaking to the church. Now in Greek, it's obvious just because the word your is different when it's singular or plural. It'd be the second person plural is spelled differently. It's a different word in Greek than in the singular. It's just that this is an English problem, English translation problem. So I just bringing this up as an example. The context will tell you, for example, if we're looking at, you know, like we looked at in our passage, I appeal to you for my child Onesimus, who, that's referring to Onesimus. I have sent him, so we can just go back. Okay, what makes sense? Well, it's got to refer to Onesimus here. He's the only one that makes sense to about. Okay, so the context there does tell us, identifies who the pronoun refers to. But that word you in English, sometimes it is, there's a challenge because of singular and plural issue. Did that answer what you were asking, Alan?
Now I understand, because it's not clear really in verse 22. Paul quickly shifted to plural, addressing the church. It's just in one verse, very quickly he shifted to addressing the church.
Yeah, and what's also interesting is in the Greek, you can also tell on the verbs if they're singular or plural. And this verb here, prepare, it's an imperative, it's singular, meaning it's addressed specifically to Philemon. He's saying, Philemon, prepare me a lodging. And then he says, for I hope that through your prayers, plural, church, I'll be given to you. So even within the verse here, he's speaking to Philemon, and then all of a sudden speaks to the whole church in the next line. So again, that's why we have to pay attention. Now, this isn't a deep doctrinal issue. If you did not realize that your prayers was the whole church, I mean, you aren't going to commit heresy if you misinterpreted that. It's not a major issue, but it is a detail that I think is important, because then you can ask yourself, well, that's interesting. So he switches right away from Philemon, and then he basically asks for prayer of the whole church. Now that tells us something. And this is where it is significant, guys, because that reminds us that this letter, it is a personal letter to Philemon, but it was also intended for the church to hear it. Why might that be? Well, here's where it's significant. Why do you think Paul would want them to know about his instruction to Philemon? Could it be perhaps that his instruction to Philemon was also intended to be instruction to the whole church? That what he's asking Philemon to do will have an impact on the entire church, because it's all meets in Philemon's house. They all knew what was going on, right? They all knew what was happening between Onesimus and Philemon. And so I think Paul is wanting this letter. It's a personal letter, but he wants the church in Philemon's house to also hear this letter, because what Philemon does is going to have an impact on the whole church. I mean, think about that, right, guys? You encounter this. If there's a church, say you're pastoring, you're Archippus, okay? And you're pastoring a church in your area, and that church meets in someone else's house, say a prominent church member, right? What would happen if that prominent church member was in a big conflict with someone else in the church? Would that affect the whole church, you think? Now, so if it was happening, and so let's say that I wrote a letter to that person, to tell them, hey, you need to be reconciled with this brother that you have a conflict with. I think it will be important for the whole church to hear that, because they're all meeting in one house together. Everybody knows what's going on in the church. It's not like this huge church, right? It's not a church of 1,000 people where maybe a lot of people wouldn't even know about the situation. It's a small house church. And so, yeah, Noor.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is this what we call mutual accountability?
Yeah. Yes. I think there's a principle here. just by noting the pronouns in Philemon, I think there's a principle we can learn that, look, if two members in a church have a problem, it's not just between those two people, right? It involves the whole church. And we know this from other passages, right? That 1 Corinthians 12, the church is a body. The eye can't say to the hand, I have no need of you. You know, Ephesians chapter 4, be diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. I mean, there's all kinds of verses that talk about unity, but here is a specific problem or issue going on in the church, and Paul addresses it. It's between Philemon and Onesimus, but it's not just between Philemon and Onesimus. It's important for the whole church. And so by you paying attention carefully to the pronouns in Philemon, that principle, that's a timeless truth that just comes out from understanding him switching back and forth between pronouns, that this situation is not just with Philemon and Onesimus, but it involves the entire church, really. Now it's up to Philemon to reconcile, but listen, if all the church is aware of the situation, all the church hears this letter from Paul, and even in the letter, Paul addresses the church at a few places. What do you think is going to happen in that church? Do you think they're all just going to ignore the situation, or do you think they might also try to get involved and help reconciliation, right? Now, Paul doesn't command the church to do that, but certainly by addressing the church in the letter, they are included in the process just by him involving them in what he tells Philemon. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So pronouns do matter. And I believe, you know, it's not just a minor thing. In this particular letter, it is actually a significant thing. All right. Now, sometimes you'll do all the pronouns and nothing significant will come out of it. Okay. But it's like, that's how Bible study is, right? You work and work and work, and sometimes there's great fruit that's yielded. Other times it's like maybe not much. All right, but then you study something else about the passage. So maybe you do the textual observations and nothing really comes out that's significant. But when you do a word study, something might come out of the particular word. Or when you do the block diagram, you might see something that you hadn't noticed before. So each step in the process is important. Sometimes one particular step will give you much more than another. But the idea is overall, if you've gone through every step, that will help you be looking at the passage from different angles, from different perspectives, looking for different things. And once you've done all of those steps together, you will have a very strong idea of the passage. Okay, and then there'll be those times where you're studying one thing that might not seem significant, but you're studying and like all of a sudden something, you know, pops in your head like, oh, I never thought of this. So, all right, that's my extended sermon on pronouns in study. Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay.
Tim, Pastor
Sorry.
Tim,
Yeah, Sid.
about the antecedent, can we not also have clue of the number of a pronoun based on the antecedent?
Yes. Yeah, certainly. Like, you know, you want to give me an example from the passage we were looking at there? Or does another one come to your mind?
This one, Pastor Tim, useless to you. So we know the story that this year point back to Onesimus.
Or Philemon? You're
In
talking
the,
about this you?
this useless to you. So
Yup.
you here is Philemon,
Yeah,
because the one useless here is Onesimus,
yes.
because of the conflict between Onesimus and Philemon. Onesimus done a bad thing to his master. So useless to you. So you here refers to Philemon. And we can point out that this is singular. So in like manner, the antecedent plays an important role to distinguish or to give us a hint or a clue to what is really the meaning of this ambiguous you, the second person.
Yeah, if
Or
we're following the flow of the letter, then yeah, exactly. That he's been referring to here has been Philemon. And so he just keeps referring to him in this particular case. And yeah, knowing the occasion, the circumstances of the letter, that the issue is between Onesimus and Philemon. So yeah, knowing who is formerly useless to you, that would be specific to Philemon. But now he's useful both to you and to me. And then sending him, well, we know him is singular, just if it, because he didn't say them here. I've sent him back to you. So we know it's in reference to Onesimus, which is, again, that means it's be singular here. Is that what you're talking about, Sid?
Yes, Pastor Tim.
Okay.
Because according to the principle of antecedent, the proximity, the
Yes.
closest to the antecedent is the reference of that pronoun. So we can have the distinguishing mark if we focus on the antecedent and connect it with the personal pronoun, especially the confusing one, the you and the your.
Yeah.
No, because they are taking double agent. They are taking singular and plural. So if we will not be careful in doing that, we might be misleading even our congregation, our hearers, and we are misrepresenting God in that case.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to be careful. And so, yeah. And also too, remember pronouns can come can be repeated. So, right, because here, if we go back to verse 7, I've come to have much joy and comfort in your love because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you, brother. So we know he's speaking to Philemon. And then the you here is just this you in verse 8 refers to the you in verse 7, which refers to the your in verse 7, which goes back to the you in verse 6. So they kind of string along as well. All right, so verse 9, I appeal to you. Well, that you is the you from verse 8, which is the you from verse 7, which is Philemon. Okay, and then verse 9. So he's just continuing on. So the antecedent is just keeps being referred to here. Each you is going back to the previous you in this case. So yeah, the rule of antecedents when you're looking at pronouns is look for the nearest word to it. That's the one it likely refers to. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. get back to the notes here. All right, so verbs, pronouns. Another thing you're going to be looking for again is the conjunctions, and you'll have already been identifying those when you do the block diagram. But just remember that we have the two kinds of conjunctions. So in this step in the textual observations, you're going to be just going back through the text and just note the specific conjunctions, identifying if they're coordinating. Can remember from way back when the coordinating conjunction is the and boy, and, nor, but, or, and yet, and they connect two ideas that are grammatically equal. And then we have the subordinating conjunctions, which connect two ideas which are not grammatically equal. Remember, a subordinating conjunction like for, since, so that, therefore, because, although, okay, though, there's many more of these. They connect or a dependent clause to a particular word in the sentence. It modifies another word, all right? Those are the subordinating. So you just want to go through your passage and identify those conjunctions, all right? Hopefully you've already done that when you did the diagram, but sometimes doing this step, you might have realized, oh, I missed one when I did the diagram, and this will help you identify and fix that, okay? All right, so verbs, pronouns, conjunctions. Oh, okay, let's do a quick example. Michael, can you find the conjunctions here in verses 4 and 5 of Philemon?
Because,
Start
Pastor,
verse 4 and make sure to mute.
verse 4. Because, Pastor,
Because, good.
and
And,
also.
all right, good. You see any others? I think that's it, right? So, because is that,
Pastor Tim,
yeah,
which subordinating, because the next one is a clause.
yeah, but remember, relative pronouns also introduce a clause. All right.
Okay.
So in this case, it is a relative pronoun here, which. Okay. Those are the two kinds of connector words that can introduce a clause. Subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. Okay. So here, because, is that subordinating or coordinating?
Subordinating.
All right, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Subordinating.
Yeah, subordinating.
Subordinating.
Subordinating. How do we know that? Because it's not amboy, it's not any of those five. Okay, how about and?
And boy.
Yeah, and boy. So is it coordinating or subordinating?
Coordinating.
Yeah.
Coordinating love and faith.
Okay. And then all you want to do is just go back and you'll look at your diagram and make sure that I identify that correctly when I diagram the passage. Okay. Okay. So verbs, pronouns, conjunctions, and then you want to look for any conditional clauses. Now those would seem pretty easy because all you want to do is look for the word if. All right, do I see the word if anywhere? And that's going to tell me it's conditional. Sometimes though, there may be a situation where the word if may not appear. I'm trying to think of some examples. I'll let you know if one comes to my mind. All right, but here's one, just a regular example from Philemon is again, if you regard me as a partner, accept him, but if he has wronged you in any way, charge that to my account. Now notice, so we have two here in this case. And it's a condition of the action. If you remember, the main action here is accept him. Okay, that's the independent clause. It's a condition though. That action of accept will not happen unless this condition is met. So this is what it would look like if you were to diagram that part. Let me just do that. Okay, the main sentence is accept him. All right, and technically, right, this is an imperative, so you accept him. All right, but this action, accept him, will not happen I gotta fix that later. Okay, this action of you accept him will not happen unless this condition is met. Okay, so that's why this is a conditional statement or condition. Okay, so the converse is if Philemon did not regard Paul as a partner, then he wouldn't accept Onesimus. Okay, that's the condition. All right, so look for conditional clauses. And again, you should have spotted those when you did your block diagram. But this step helps to make sure that you didn't miss that. And then finally, look for any purpose or result statements in your passage. Okay?
Pastor Tim,
Yeah, Michael.
is there another word used for conditional? Aside,
In English,
yeah.
no, there's a similar word, but it's not a condition, it's a concession. If I were
What
to
about-
say, huh?
Unless.
Unless, yeah, that might have an element. Unless, let's see, let's come up with a sentence. Accept him unless you are angry. I'll just make it up. Okay. So yeah, that's a condition.
When how about this, Pastor Tim? When I will get this, I will serve the Lord. Something like that.
When I receive my degree, I will be pastor. How's that?
Right.
Okay, now this is sort of a condition, but it's not, there's no uncertainty here. It's saying that it's really the answering the question when. It's not really a condition. Now, if it were to say, because it's just saying this will happen when I receive my degree. Now, if I had said, I will be pastor if I receive my degree, that carries more the idea of a condition.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
there's another, it's called concession. So this would be condition. Concession would be, though I do not have a degree, I am the pastor. Now, in this case, the word though is not a condition, it's a concession. It's something that is the case. There's no doubt. It's not a condition. It's a statement. Though, or sometimes you might see even though. So this action or this state is taking place despite this concession, it's called, to concede something. Okay, so, but yeah, I would say if, the word if or unless, those would indicate more of a condition, conditional idea. Questions on that? Does that answer your question, Michael? Okay. Where are we here? Okay. Oh, purpose and result statement. So look for purpose and result statements. So for example, we already saw this passage. I thank my God making mention of you in my prayers because, okay, that's a purpose statement or a reason, I mean, okay? Why do I thank my God? Because I hear of your love and the faith which you have towards the Lord Jesus, all the saints. And I pray the fellowship of your faith may become effective through the knowledge of every good thing which is in you, for Christ's sake, for I have come. So that's giving a reason.
Much joy.
Why do I have much love? That's giving a reason. That word for, usually for, because here's the words to look for when you're looking for a reason or result or purpose. Okay. And then here's another because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you. That's why I've come to have much joy, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you. Again, this step, you should notice these when you do your block diagram, because you're asking yourself questions of how do these phrases and clauses relate. So you should pick it up in that step. But in case you missed it, the textual observation step is intended to get you to think one more time and look at your passage and make sure, do I see any statements here that give a cause or effect or a purpose or a result? All right. Okay. Well, I wanted to, let's see, we'll just start doing this. I wanted to go through this example with you from Psalm 128. Now, the textual observation step when we do epistles is there's 10 or 11 things that you look for. But with poetry, we only have you look for like 5 things: the verbs, pronouns, conditional statements, purpose result statements, and conjunctions. Those 5 things, because the other things that normally you would look for, like repetition, some of those we've already done in previous steps. So here we're just looking for those 5 things. So what I want to do is maybe just take a little time. We'll just do one of the things right now. We'll do the verbs. All right. So go through. I'll give you a few minutes on your own. We'll go through this passage and just identify the verbs, and then identify the tense, mood, and voice. Okay, so just look at verse 1. identify a word. What are the verbs in verse 1? And then once you identify those verbs, just, okay, what is the tense, mood, and voice? All right. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this on your own, and then we'll come back together. First, I'm going to have Noor. Can you just read Psalm 128 for us? And then
Psalm 128. How blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you shall eat of the fruit of your hands, you will be happy, and it will be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine within your house, your children like olive plants around your table. Behold, for thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord blesses you from Zion, and may you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Indeed, may you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel.
all right. So go ahead, take a few minutes and just go verse by verse. I'll put the song. All right, we'll just do it this way. Okay, so the Psalm's on your right there. Just look through it and go verse by verse. Identify the verb, the tense, mood, and voice. And I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes to do that. Okay. All right, how you guys doing? Need another minute? Okay. Let's go ahead. Since we're getting close to noontime here, so I want to at least get this done for this week. Okay. Alan, why don't we start with you, verse 1. What verbs do you see there?
How blessed is everyone who fears the Lord.
Yeah, what are the verbs? Or give me one verb. Let's start.
Fears.
Okay, good. Fears. What's the tense, mood, and voice?
Tense is present.
Good.
The mood is active.
The voice is active. Yep. What about the mood?
The voice is active, and the mood is indicative.
Good. Yep, it's a statement of fact. All right.
There's another verb which is present also, walks. Who walks, indicative, mood.
Yes, good. Active or
And the
passive?
voice, active.
Yes, the subject's doing the action. The subject
Yes.
here is who walks. So,
Walks.
right. Any other verbs?
Is
Yes.
verb of being.
Yes, good.
So of course that's present.
Yep.
Indicative. Active.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Next one here, Sid, I'll give you this one, verse 2.
Verse 2. Eat.
Okay. Eat.
Future.
Yeah, notice the word shall. Should probably put shall eat.
So shall eat, future, and then indicative, active.
Yes. Okay, good. Any other?
Will be. Will be.
Will be.
Future. Indicative, active.
Yep, they're both the same, right? And notice the helper verb shall or will identifies the future tense. Okay, good. Any other verbs there?
The same will be.
Yeah, there's will be is twice. All right, 2 times. It's the same in each case. All right, very good. Kazo, we'll give you verse 3.
Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine within your house, your children like olive plants around your table. Shall be, verb, future,
Good.
indicative, active.
Yes. Any other
Then
verbs?
your children still also shall be like olive plants.
Yeah, it's ellipsis there, but it's going to be the same. Shall be future indicative active. All right.
Yes, Pastor Tim, that's all.
Good. That's it. Very good. All right, Noor, I'm going to give you verse 4. You're muted, brother.
All right. Shall be. Shall the man be
Yes.
blessed?
So yeah, shall be. They're split up by the man, but yeah, the man shall be blessed. Okay.
It is future. Then indicative. That
Yep.
is, yeah. Then fears.
We got to do, is the voice active or passive?
No, it is active. Oh,
Well, think about it. Is the man doing the blessing or is he blessed?
he blessed. So it is passive.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, good. All right. Sorry, you said another one?
I don't know. The fears? No.
Yeah. Yep. That's a
Fears?
verb.
Yeah. Who fears the Lord?
Tense.
That
Including
tense
voice.
is fear, present.
Good.
And that is active.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the subject, who, is doing the action.
Yeah.
And is it, what's the mood? Indicative, imperative, interrogative, subjunctive?
Indicative. Indicative. No.
Yes. It's making a statement. All right. Very good. And I think that's it. Yep. For that one. All right. Brother Arn, I'll give you verse 5.
Verse 5. The Lord bless you from Zion, and may you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. The verb is bless.
Okay, bless.
Present.
Good. Present.
Then indicative.
Okay, indicative.
And then the subject is Lord, active.
Yes, very good. Subject's doing the action. Okay.
Okay.
Any more?
Then the second line, the verb is see. And you may see present. And then you see from the word may, subjunctive.
Yes, very good. It's actually, yeah, may you see. So we should put may see together. We don't know. It's actually, this is a prayer, right? So we don't know the answer to the prayer. But it's a request, so there's some uncertainty.
And
All right, very
then
good.
the voice, okay, sorry. And then the voice from the main sentence, the Lord bless, is, I believe, is the Lord is bless you, and you see prosperity passive, Pastor?
Well, again, ask the question, who's doing the action? Is the subject doing the action?
You from the side.
May you see. So the subject is you.
There's active.
Yes, it is active. All right. Now, if it had said, may you be seen, that would be passive. But it says, may you see. That's active. Okay. All right.
Okay.
That's it. Good. Here, I'll just do verse 6 real quick because it's past noon. I want to. All right. Again, we have may you see. Same thing in verse 6, present. And again, it's subjunctive because the idea is we don't know is uncertainty, and it's active. And then peace, be upon Israel. That's present. Present, active, indicative. Okay. Now, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, good. So simple exercise. Notice almost all of the, up until verse 5, all of them are indicative. Almost all of them are active. And then there's a mix between present and future. Notice the shift in verses 2 to 4, the future voice. Verse 1, it's present, future tense. But verses 2 to 4 are future, right? Because it's describing what would happen for the man who fears the Lord. And then verses 5 and 6, it introduces the subjunctive, which makes sense because it's a prayer. And technically speaking, guys, if we were to go look at the Hebrew text, actually, all of these would be subjunctive. The Lord bless you, that's actually a request as well. The idea is, may the Lord bless you, and may peace be upon Israel. Okay, we don't see it in the English translation, but verses 5 and 6 are all a prayer. Okay, because we don't command the Lord to bless, right? We're not saying that God has to do it. This is obviously a prayer. May the Lord bless you. All right. But we don't see the word may in English here. I would have put it in. So really it's may the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see prosperity of Jerusalem. May you see your children's children, and may peace be upon Israel. Okay. So really they're all subjunctive because they're all a prayer. Okay, when we pray, we don't know the outcome until God decides it. So there's some uncertainty, right? And the English reflects that in the word may. And it should have put it in all the.
Pastor Tim.
Yeah, Sid.
How about the word behold in verse 4? Is that a verb?
Ah, that's a good question. Technically speaking, let's see. Oh, how did that happen?
Autopilot.
Okay. Technically speaking, in Hebrew, it's a particle, meaning it's not a verb. It's an interjection. It's a statement. But in Greek, actually, the word translated as behold actually does come from a verb, idu. It's actually a command. Technically, in the Greek, when you see behold, that usually comes from a word idu, which comes from the word see, and it's really like a command. Technically it's an imperative in the Greek. Look. Here in Hebrew, it's a particle, it's an interjection. It has the same idea, but it's technically not a verb. All right. Now in English, that's a good question. Would behold be, let me look up in my, all right, guys, I've showed you this before, right? This is my English, let's see if I can see it here. There, whoop, there.
Yes, English grammar.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Let me see if the word's in there. It has all kinds of grammar stuff. Let's see. Nope, it's not in there. Oh well.
Behold the Lamb of God.
Yeah, because behold almost in English almost sounds like a command. Yeah, in English it is considered a verb, like in the Greek. So yeah, I always look at it though as an interjection, but technically we could have parsed it out as a verb here. But in Hebrew, it's not a verb. It's a particle. But if we did do it as a verb, it'd be a present imperative active. All right. But in Hebrew, that word behold really is just an interjection like oh, or whoa, or something like that.
That's the same weight, Pastor Tim, with indeed.
Yes. Yeah, like indeed. Or certainly. Those are words used to sort of give emphasis, but they're called particles, meaning they don't really fit in another grammatical category. They're not an adjective or a noun or a verb. They're just a word that's thrown in as an interjection, to draw attention to. So in Hebrew, behold actually is the same kind of thing. Now in Greek, like I said, behold is technically a verb, but it's used like a particle in Greek. It became like an idiom almost. Now in English, same thing. Technically in English, it's a verb, but it still has sort of like an idiom idea of like a particle or interjection. But technically you're saying, you're commanding behold or look. But yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you, Pastor Tim.
All right, guys. Again, I know it's technical, dealing with grammar and things, but as I've said, we're dealing with language. And so it's always going to come down at times to looking at grammatical features, and I keep working at that because that is where the insights will come as far as understanding your passage. So Lord willing, next week, next week we're not going to meet. It's the holiday time for us here, Thanksgiving in the States. So my family's in town. So I'll be spending time with them next Tuesday morning, your time. So that will give
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving Day, Pastor Tim.
Thanks. Yeah, that's coming in a few days here. So that's a big holiday for our family.